We're the two teachers. Welcome to Strangest Things.
Timeless talk about today's topics.
Andy, I'll tell you what's strange this week, and frankly, everyone's talking about how strange it is. Kim Jong-un and nuclear weapons? North Korea?
Well, it's not particularly new or strange that North Korea has nuclear or atomic weapons. We've known for 20 years, the public has known that North Korea has atomic weapons going back to the Bill Clinton administration. What's new is the rhetoric on both sides, and particularly North Korea's threats to use nuclear weapons on intercontinental ballistic missiles.
And yet what's kind of strange is that this is a bipartisan issue. Both sides, right and left, are recognizing that this is a big deal. And that's kind of strange. There's not a whole lot of politicking going on, but Andy, is North Korea the only country with nuclear weapons other than the United States?
Well, no. We know that North Korea is not the only country with nuclear weapons. We know going back to the time the United States was first challenged with atomic power by the Soviet Union and then by China. I mean, during the Cold War, we had hundreds, if not thousands, of nuclear-tipped missiles pointed at each other.
As did the Soviet Union.
Across the globe. The rhetoric wasn't necessarily as ferocious as the rhetoric is now, but the Soviet Union and Mao's China was certainly not our friends, and we had nuclear missiles pointed at each other. And we know today there are mortal enemies with nuclear weapons pointed at each other, namely India and Pakistan. And certainly we know that when it comes to terrorist extremism, Pakistan has a hotbed of that, and yet they have plenty of nuclear missiles.
Andy, a lot of drum beats out there. How strange can this get? What can a United States do to quiet this noise?
Well, to quiet the noise, when you're seeing the heat of rhetoric that reminds a lot of people of the Cuban Missile Crisis from the 1960s, when it seems like both the JFK and Nikita Khrushchev were on the brink of atomic war. And so in terms of the rhetoric, who knows what's going to tone that rhetoric down? But certainly this is where you have even military leaders in the United States publicly calling out for diplomacy, that in times like this, whether it be private diplomacy or some kind of public diplomacy, to use diplomacy before military options would be implemented.
Well, we certainly hope that our president uses the chief diplomatic role more than the commander-in-chief role in this strange thing this summer. Andy, you know, friends don't lie. And frankly, I got a bit of a truthache that all my friends are talking about, well, Trump's going on vacation, presidents take vacations in the month of August. Andy, this whole idea of the federal government kind of stepping back in the month of August, is that a strange thing?
It's not a strange thing. The Congress usually takes a fairly long recess during the month of August in the summer. It is very typical for a president to take an extended vacation, and quite frankly, no matter whether it was Barack Obama or George W. Bush in Texas or Bill Clinton, that 2-week vacation was almost standard, particularly because it's easier to protect the president in a remote location if they're spending 2 weeks in the same place.
But anyway, let's not forget, not unlike for you and I out there, you know, working remotely is not all that new. We know that, 35-40% of Americans can now work from home, and just because our Congress and our president are vacationing doesn't mean that they've left their responsibilities back in the White House and in the Capitol. Andy, Congress is back home campaigning for upcoming elections, meeting with constituents, and clearly, just recognizing from the number of tweets we're still reading from our president, it's a working vacation, and frankly, it's what they do in August.
It's what they do in August. The work of government still gets done, particularly in the executive branch, which is more than just the president. It's the entire cabinet and all those executive agencies. And it's not new to be hypocritical about complaining about the president's vacation. Both parties do it. Both parties complain when they're out of power that the president who is in power is taking a vacation. It just so happens that this particular president happens to have a Twitter account and tweets that are still out there where he was pretty direct in criticizing his predecessor about those vacations.
And
that is a strange thing.
And it's time to walk through the curiosity door. And frankly, this is a curiosity of mine. This has come up with this whole concept of, our president's on vacation, our Congress is on recess. It begs the question, who's running our government? Do we need government at all? Or do we just operate in spite of a dysfunctional government?
Well, the government isn't taking a vacation. We could argue whether we need a government. I'm not going to argue that. Yes, we need a government for some of the most basic security and regulations in our lives. In terms of whether our government's taking a vacation, the answer is no. I mean, in terms of that executive branch, both at the national, state, and local levels.
My mail is still being delivered.
The mail is still delivered. It doesn't take a vacation.
My dad's still getting his Social Security check, even though Trump's on vacation. But Andy, remember, government serves so many important functions that sometimes we forget about. We talk about, we don't need government, cut all this, cut all that. But so many of our just basic things we expect in our day, making sure our food's inspected, that it's healthy, make sure our air is clean, make sure that our roads are taken care of.
The lines on the road, the most basic part of government that a lot of us know, those lines on the road don't disappear for 2 weeks in August.
I guess we need government. 3 cheers for government. This has been The Strangest Things. We're the two teachers.
No fancy words.
No fancy suits.
Plain talk about issues you need to know.
Just in time.